Caddo Parish Administrator Dr. Woody Wilson. Hey, Dr. Woody, how are you this morning? Thank you for taking time for us.
Hey, good morning. My pleasure.
I have no life, so I was watching on TV the Caddo Commission meeting yesterday on my computer, and I heard the president of the commission use this quote, that the public was misinformed about this election. That took me back a little bit. Do you agree? Do you think the public was misinformed, or do you think the public was trying to send a message by the no votes on the millage renewals?
The public perhaps was misinformed to the extent that there were several things put out by various individuals that were not true, obviously. You know, for example, Erin, we got feedback that people were saying that we were, if they passed the tax, we were going to take people's home and the money was going to be used other than what is intended to be used for. And a lot of that misinformation did come out, but I think that the citizen did send us a clear message saying that they perhaps want us to consider calling for renewals and a more approximate time of the expiration of a millage. And that's what my takeaway is.
How disappointed were you? Let me just ask you that. How disappointed?
Well, I'm somewhat disappointed to some extent because, Erin, the public needs to be aware that we were calling for these renewals early in order to save money, and we have done it in the past. We would group renewals that were expiring in a certain time period. For example, the ones that were expiring is the parks in 2018, the public health in 2020, juvenile code 21, and also Caddo Parish Courthouse in 21 as well. So instead of calling for an election every other year, 3 elections in 4 years, we thought we'd do one election, group them all, because the millages, if they were renewed, wouldn't start until they actually expired. Now, as the situation turns out, we would have to end up, if it's the direction desired of the board, would call for another election between now and December 31st, 2018 for parks, which is our immediate concern. But after that, we have public health. We had to call an election for in 2019. We had to call an election for juvenile court in 2020, and also for the Caddo Parish Courthouse in 2020, and then rolling around in 2022 is public works and roads and bridges, what we have the call for an election in 2021.
Mm-hmm. So pardon me, Dr. Wilson, so you're going to pretty darn soon try to get all of these millages renewed. You're going to try again. So I would read between the lines and say, because of that, you in no way take the vote Saturday as a referendum that maybe Caddo Parish voters don't want these things.
Well, I'm not. I do respect the wishes of the citizens, because that's what I ultimately work for. But I believe that citizens want and need these services that this money provide for, like public health and parks and juvenile court and the Caddo Parish Courthouse, where we have 12 judges conducting civil and judicial matter every day. So those things are essential for parish government. And also, to the extent we would look at using available resources to the extent that we have them, but that the resources does have a limit to it. So at some point, we would need these renewals passed so we can continue government. And for the last 70 years, these millages have been in place to support the day-to-day operation of parish government that we all rely on so heavily.
You just said a couple of seconds ago that
go ahead.
We need these taxes for government to operate. Is that really true?
Yes, sir. We the people, I work for We the People, and the resources that I operate, it belongs to the people. And certainly, I don't want the people to be misled. We do have some reserve balances for funds that we have, but over the past few years, we've been using a lot of these fund balances to do capital projects for these facilities that we own, because we don't have a funding source to do capital projects. So to the extent available and that a fund can handle it, every year, for example, we receive $10 million in capital requests, and we take about $2 million to do $10 million worth of work. Well, if we were to do $10 million worth of work, whatever reserve balance we have will be wiped out in no time at all.
But your reserve is as high as $120 million. What harm would it be to roll back? We pay some of the highest property taxes in the state. You guys could do a lot of goodwill for the community if you said, you know what? We're going to use these monies from our reserve, and we're going to roll back your property taxes.
Yeah, Erin, we have been rolling back for the last 9 years. If you fact check the records, we have been rolling back taxes. Matter of fact, on assessments, we never roll forward. In the past 15 years that I've been in the parish, we've always taken a lesser amount of money to do the same amount of work. So we never roll forward to an extent that was fully authorized by the citizens at the ballot box. So we're well below that. And certainly, we do use reserve. We've been using a lot of reserve to do a lot of these maintenance projects that come up because the last capital money we had ran out in 2014. So 2014 on, we've been using the same reserve to take care of these aging facility infrastructure needs throughout the parish. And by the way, the reserve balances is steadily going down and will continue to go down over time, because there's no other mechanism that we have in place that will allow us to make major system replacement and repairs.
Caddo Parish voters this weekend said no to all the millage renewals on the ballot. You said earlier in a conversation with us that you're going to try all 5 of those to get those passed again. How many times would Caddo Parish voters have to say no before you would say, I get it?
We did it this time. But I think we need to do a better job, if at all possible, to inform the citizen on the need of these millages. And these millages do not expire until December 31st, 2018 in the parks, and also, public health 2020 and 2021. Now, it will solely be up to the discretion of the Caddo Parish Commission Board whether they would want to call for these millages. Renewal again.
Could you do them separately, and how much does each election cost us?
If we're the only ones on the ballot, it's $200,000.
Each election?
Yes, ma'am, each election.
And you're willing to spend that?
Well, I mean, obviously, we need to have the millages renewed. If there's some other event that's going to be taking place election-wise, then we end up sharing the cost if there's something else on the ballot other than us.